Half a day, everyone, and we are on location today in what you might notice are the very friendly confines of the Guam Congress Building downtown Inagana. Liz Duenas from Remax Diamond Realty Guam is with me, and Liz, you have the privilege today of getting direct FaceTime with the speaker.
Yes, we've had the series of talking about permitting and the committee that's doing that. And we wanted to speak to the Speaker of the House to figure out if there is an amendment to a particular bill, what's the process in layman's term? How can we approach them and figure out what needs to get done? What changes could be done, and what is the process?
And of course, Tina Munya Barnes is a very, very busy policymaker, so the fact that you're getting time with her directly, it's a great honor.
Yes, it certainly is, and the people of Guam will benefit.
All right, well, let's not waste any time. Let's go inside and talk to the Speaker of the Legislature.
Speaker, we are so honored to have you on our show. I know your time is limited, but we wanted to talk to you about certain issues and get your feedback and input. And it's an educational process for us as well as the community. So I know we're running a series of the permitting process. Bert is the chairperson of the committee. He's been assigned the task force to look at our permitting process for the island and see what could be done to improve it. Now, in that process, I think if there anything mandated by law, what is the process on your side of the fence in terms of making the correction? So if something needs to be amended or corrected in a particular law, what do we need to do? What's the process?
First of all, Auntie Liz, thank you, Half a Day Guam, and thank you for having me. It truly is an honor and a pleasure to be here. I want to share with you that if you're looking to amend a bill that has already become law, usually we take concerns from citizens, of course, from committee work, from our colleagues as senators, but anybody can come to our body and ask for assistance. And what happens is, if an amendment needs to be done, of course, the proper research is being made, it's done, it's facilitated, it comes to us. Then we can introduce a bill to amend that chapter in the GCA, the Guam Code Annotated. It gets an introduction, it gets a number. Then the bill goes through getting its fiscal note, if there's an impact on the fiscal sustainability or the viability, and then it gets referred to the Committee on Rules, and Committee on Rules will refer that bill to amend a certain section or a certain act, and it gets referred to the oversight, and then the oversight will set a public hearing, give it its 5-day notice, and then we will entertain testimonies, oral testimonies, and written testimonies from the community.
Wow, it is
It does take its process.
process.
Yes.
Because sometimes when we look at a particular bill, when you go to the permitting, they would say this is mandated, or there's two things, mandated, the mandate, and then there's also regulatory. The regulatory side, I guess, has to do with the enforcement. And then the mandate is like, we don't have a choice. This has to be followed.
Yes, when a mandate is given by law, of course, there's a shall that's in there, and there is a big difference between shall and may. But on regulatory stuff, if it goes through the AAA process, if a bill is introduced and it needs to go through a AAA process because you've done something to give rules and regs to a specific agencies, it has to do its due diligence, and then it'll come back to the body after it goes through the AAA process, and then we can either make the necessary changes again, going through the process of a bill being introduced, getting its fair hearing, and then getting its committee report passed, signed by the members of the committee, and then if it gets on the floor, it gets deliberated on the floor to approve, disapprove, amend, and then move forward.
Well, I wanted to comment. We just had come back from the Washington, D.C., and from the National Association of Realtors meeting. And it's interesting what's happening in D.C. right now, where they're not communicating because of party lines. And there's, there was even a comment that they should return their salaries because they're not even communicating. It's different here on Guam, where the senators are communicating despite party lines. Is that correct?
Yes, and I want to share with you, Auntie Liz, and to our island of Guam, that here on Guam, we're very unique, we're very family-oriented. We give the opportunity to hear the issues and concerns that come from the community, that come into this August body, and we have been able to introduce legislation from both sides of the aisle. We've come into heavy debate, we've come into support, but in the ultimate end, when you get the majority of 8, when the bill passes or get the unanimous support, it gets distributed or facilitated through, goes through the governor and the option to either sign the bill or veto the bill. Another process can come back to our August body, and we can either override a veto if the governor doesn't sign a bill, doesn't think it's worthy, but if the legislature thinks it's worthy based on the information that was provided to the legislature, we can override it by 2/3 of the majority, which will be 10.
10. Okay, so it appears that there's a collaboration of effort between both parties. I had just come from a Guam Association of Realtors legislative committee, and there are 140 bills that are introduced.
140 plus bills.
Plus
As
bills.
of this morning. And I just want to share that the 35th Guam legislature, our colleagues continue to be very diligent, but more importantly, the committee work is working really hard to entertain all the bills. And I want to say to our people, to our community, that the work here never ends. And we invite the community to continue to listen to us on our legislative channel, but more importantly, if they have any concerns, they have no problems writing to their senators, coming to visit their senators, setting appointments with their senators, and our doors are open.
Well, the interesting part is our legislative committee actually review the bills, and then they look at how it is pertinent, at least on our side, to the real estate community, and then we provide input in favor of or against, or we make some recommendation in terms of how this bill could be better based on our line of expertise. We are really glad that you are open whenever we knock on your door to say,
Thank you.
hey, there's a problem with this bill, there's an issue. So working together really benefits our community in terms of improving our quality of life and working on different things. So in terms of the permitting process, we're still in the review process. So I'm assuming that the committee, once they review it, look at how it works, how to streamline it, as Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio is working on. He's looking at streamlining it to improve the permitting process. So I think in line with that, if there are any issues that are mandated by law, then we can come to you and say,
Definitely,
hey,
most
we
definitely.
need to do an amendment to this, this, and this
Right.
to make it better.
And sometimes you don't have to legislate procedures that have already been implemented. Sometimes you just need to re-synergize it and bring it up to the forefront. So if there's any concerns that is happening and impeding the process for government procedures, the legislature has no problems if it needs to be amended to make sure that the permitting process goes more smoothly for the community. So again, as any bill that becomes law, it continues to evolve, it continues to grow, and I've always said this, what may have been bad back then may be better today. What may have been good back then may not be so good today, based on the trends, based on technology, based on processes, based on things that change with the times. So that's why a bill that becomes law can always be revisited. The Guam Code annotated, the rules and regulations can always be revisited by our community.
That's wonderful. So in terms of the 140 bills or plus bills, not necessarily all of them would be passed because there's
That's
a
right.
review process.
There is definitely a process that the legislature goes through, and I'd like to share that with you, that
Okay.
you can share with
With
the
the-
car.
Well, thank you so much. We truly appreciate it, and I'm sure our community appreciate the information you provided. And give us a call if there are more questions, right?
Yes, and they're more than welcome to call our office. 477-2520 is the office of the speaker.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sainamasi.
Goodbye.
Closed captioning is brought to you by IT&E. Explore your world.